Thank you so much for that introduction, and I think my response was ugh to my mentor, because my mentor is my father, so I feel like I'm allowed to be a little bit more casual with him. But yeah, I do need to say thank you to him, because he was the one that invited me into this room. But I mean, today I really just want to go through a little bit more about my story and how I got started as an employee and then moved into having my own business as well, and was able to have both at the same time. And then also, I guess, how I've used this room in terms of building my own network to get the results that I was looking for. But just out of curiosity, before I start, I'm just wondering who in the room is a business owner? Can you put your hand up? Yeah, okay, so that's quite a few people. And who's an employee? Okay, great, still quite a few, that's good. And who's both? Who's a business owner and an employee at the same time? Yeah, see, that's fantastic. That's actually more than I was expecting as well. And I mean, for me today, what I really want to go through is how you can network effectively to get results, whether you're a business owner or whether you're an employee. And I guess even why, as an employee, that you would choose to build a network and choose to get good at it. But you know, in terms of my story, I first started out, I went to uni and I did a business degree and I majored in marketing. And it's been so good, I suppose, getting out there into the real world and having that real world experience, just realising how much of a coveted skill that marketing actually is. And it's true, if you've got a business, it doesn't matter how good your product or service is, if you don't have any clients, you don't make money. And even as an employee, in terms of, you know, getting good at marketing, you do need to do that even if you're an employee, because you're marketing yourself. You're marketing yourself to your current employer if you want to move ahead and get into a different role and progress, or to your future employer. You're marketing your people skills, your goal setting skills and your abilities, and you need to learn how to do that effectively and in an effective way. So for me, I guess I did this business degree and I majored in marketing, and I got to the end of my degree and was like, well, that's great. Don't really want to do that. I don't want to be a marketing manager. I don't want to be an advertiser. I didn't want to wholly and solely be in marketing, which is this huge bubble that could involve so many different things. And for me, I had been working in financial planning firms along the way while I was at uni, part-time. And I really loved the finance side of things. And I ended up working for a stockbroking firm in the city. And that wasn't necessarily by design, it was just the next sort of choice. And after I finished uni, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I don't know if anyone else has been vocationally disturbed at any point in time in your life, I don't know. And hey, look, maybe in the future you might be vocationally disturbed. But you do, sometimes I think you go through points like, how did I end up here? And at the time I was working in back office for the stockbroking firm, and I was working in, you know, doing applications and redemptions in managed funds, which was, so boring. And I remember I was pulled into a room. I'd only been there about 5 months, and my manager pulled me into a room and said, Laura, we really need to talk to you about this. It's quite serious. And I was like, oh, okay. You know, what's wrong? And they said, well, you're making personal phone calls at work. And I thought, wow, I was like, I've maybe called my mum, you know, 2 or 3 times, but that's been it. And what it was, I was on the phone to brokers and fund managers and clients, and I'd gotten to know these people and develop relationships with them and was friendly with them on the phone. And they actually thought that I was making personal phone calls. So anyway, after that, I was very quickly moved to front office, and I started working directly with the stockbrokers and with their clients. And that was just a whole nother world that got opened up for me, and I really started to learn about the stock market and about investing, and really sort of gained an interest in that area. And I remember I thought, wow, this is really cool. Like, you know, I want to start investing myself and start investing in stocks. And I went up to my boss, who was, you know, head of the dealing room, head of sort of 80 stockbrokers, and I said to him, look, I really like your style, your approach. You've been a broker for 19 years, you've got the experience, you know, will you please take on my staff account? And, you know, I say please because, you know, brokers make no money out of staff accounts. Like, it's more of a drain on like IPO allocations and that sort of thing. So it's not, you know, it's not a sell. But I said, look, I really want to work with you. And so he agreed and took on my account, and we started working together. And I was just like, wow, this is really good, you know, because I wanted to do something with my savings, because I realised, you know, 2% cash interest, you're not really earning a lot from your savings that are sitting there. And also with my super, I wanted to have more control over that and where it was invested, and really take some ownership of that. And I thought, wow, well, if I'm doing this and I'm learning from Tony and from what he's doing, surely there are other people that could benefit from this. And so I invited him along to this room. So this was at the stage where my father had said to me, just come along, Laura, I know you don't know what you want to do, but come along into this environment, start building a network, start getting to know people, and decide from there what you want to do. And so I said to Tony, I'm like, wow, you should come along to this networking event. Like, it's great. I'm meeting some really good people, and I think people could really, take some value away from what you're doing as well. And so he came into this room, loved it, loved the people, loved the culture, hadn't seen a networking event like this. And he turned to me and said, Laura, I actually think you'd make a great stockbroker. Have you thought about being a stockbroker? I thought, oh, well, look, I've got an interest in the market overall and from what I'm learning. But to be honest, what person is going to take advice from a 20-something-year-old blonde chick? Really? With no experience. And we sort of talked about it. Tony's great at the analysis. He can sit there and look at companies and really go through the financials and the detail, and is very good at that, and doesn't love necessarily the business development side. He is great when he has a client sitting in front of him and he can take it from there, but not so much to getting the client in the room, which is back to having marketing being such a coveted skill. And for me, I thought, well, I love the business development side. I've been building a network anyway. I actually really enjoy that side. That's my strengths. And we just decided to work together. Well, Tony's got his strengths, I've got mine. And so we started a joint venture together. And that was really cool because it was both around our current roles. He still had his business, he was head of the dealing room, he was doing his own thing. I still had my support work with a team of 6 stockbrokers, but together we could start to build a business and a client base around that, which was really cool. And I guess for me it was an ideal way of getting started in building up my own business while still having that security as an employee. And that's the way that things are moving these days as well. I mean, Sam, even in her introduction for me, I know she's done a great talk here at this platform about the gig economy and how that is where the economy is moving to. And I can so relate to that. I've seen so many people now that are out there who are employees or doing contract work whilst building up their own business in something that they're passionate in and having that interest on the side. I went to a breakfast a couple of months ago, and it had a panel of people at this breakfast. We had Michaelia Cash, who's the Minister for Employment. There was a CEO from Serena Rosso and a couple of others. And they were all talking about the future for Brisbane and where we're going in terms of infrastructure and having an innovative economy. And it was really interesting to hear the topic of discussion was how do we gain loyalty from Generation Y and all these guys that don't hang around in a job for too long. Long gone are the days that somebody would be in a role for 30, 40 years. We just don't have that loyalty anymore. And it was really interesting what was suggested, which was organisations being able to embrace the gig economy. And if you can help people, whether they're looking for contract work, part-time work, or wanting full-time work, but they're going to build their own business outside of that, how that is what retains employees and gets them to generate that loyalty. That's what the new generation are looking for. And I couldn't think of anyone better. That's a fantastic representation of the gig economy in force with a Gen Y. Are you Gen Y, Tom, or Gen, what's the other one? Z? Gen Z? You don't know? Okay, cool. He's young. But so my brother Tom is another example. He got the whole Tom, just come and build your network chat that I also got from my dad. And Tom's done a dual degree, he's done a business degree and an economics degree. And he came out of that, again, like me, not really knowing what he wanted to do. And he was applying for so many different jobs. He even says he had a full-time job applying for jobs. And wasn't really having a lot of success, not really finding anything that he liked. And he came along into this room for a couple of months and then met Rob Neville. Now, Rob, his cousin owns an accounting firm out in Mount Gravatt, and they'd been toying with the idea of having somebody come on and do their marketing. And, Tom was sort of like, oh, marketing, I don't know, I hadn't really thought about going into that. But look, I've got a couple of different ideas. Why don't I meet with them and see where it goes from there? And Tom went in there, pitched a couple of different ideas that he had, and they hired him on the spot. Didn't have a defined formal role, nothing was out there on Seek. And Tom started working for this accounting firm. And since then, he's helped them to gain, a lot more market presence. They've won a lot of small business awards, and he's implemented some different strategies and tools in place for them to grow through social media and other marketing channels, which is great for them as a firm. But Tom was also then able to start up his own business. So Tom has a business, he helps people to get websites, and primarily his target market started off being mum and dads who were looking at retiring, but they owned a business and they wanted to try and sell this business. But a lot of them didn't have websites, didn't have that web presence or any clear defined marketing strategy. So Tom would help them to do that with the view of being able to make their business more saleable. And Tom's been outsourcing to lots of different countries as well for work. He's got a couple of people on board that he really likes their quality of work. He communicates with them on a regular basis, and that relationship works really well. But Tom's been able to do it then and create a great result for the client, but at a much cheaper price than what they could otherwise ordinarily get through somewhere else. And funnily enough, the accounting firm is now referring their clients to Tom. That's another stream of income now for them as well. And Tom's now dropping down the hours that he's doing at the accounting firm because of all of the work that he has going on. So, it's just a really interesting way in terms of the gig economy and thinking about it for yourself as well. And particularly if you only have one stream of income, why wouldn't you look at having multiple streams of income, particularly if you can do something that you're passionate about as well. And you might not actually have the idea or the business, like me and Tom, we had no clue. We just came along and networked, which funnily enough got the results, so thank you. But, that's sort of what we were sort of focusing on, and that's what I can recommend as well. If you're sitting in here going, I've been thinking about a business that I just don't have the idea, it's amazing when you meet people in this room, hear about the projects that they're working on, what you can get involved in. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that you're starting on your own either. But in terms of building a network, I suppose, and how do we do that effectively if we all know that, this is something that we need to be doing. And it is something that you need to focus on if you're wanting to get ahead. So if you're wanting to grow or expand your business, or if you're wanting to grow or expand your role as an employee, networking and developing your contacts is the best way to do that. And it's true, I see it at work. I see it with the trainee brokers that come in that are, they're great. They're at their desk, they're watching the market, they're going to all of the company presentations. And as a new broker, you can gain clients, one of three ways. One is from being on the cold call list. So a client will ring up the firm and say, look, I need a stockbroker. And so that person gets put through to you. Two is that you work off the tail end of an advisor's book. So they might have, a tail list of clients that haven't been that active, or they haven't been able to really get in contact with, or just haven't had much success with. So they give that to you to try. The third option is you go out there and find your own clients. And that's easier said than done. Like, once you've gone through your friends and family list, what else, right? And you need to have a consistent strategy for going out and getting new clients. And you do. You see the trainees that struggle to get off the ground and are trainees for years because they are doing all the right things except being proactive and going out there and finding new business and finding people. So if we know that, maybe I have to network or go to a networking event, that seems scary for a lot of people. Like, not so much for me. I'm not so worried about meeting new people. But I get, though, that for a lot of people that is quite scary. And I mean, for me, I've got one slide. We have to get the slide up, people. PowerPoint is not my thing. This is my one slide. It was in colour, actually. No, it's not showing up in colour. But anyway. So these are the different layers, I suppose, of the way that I look at networking and how to build your network and how to get results. Because I don't know about you, but some people say to me, networking doesn't work. And it's kind of like, I feel like that's if people say, oh, you know what, going to the gym doesn't work. It's like, no, going to the gym does work if you do it, right? And if you go consistently and have a strategy around it. And I guess most people in terms of networking, they only really hit that first layer, which is their social network. And that's people that you just meet day to day with the things that you're doing in terms of, you know, going to your kids', you know, sporting thing. You could be going to something with your girlfriends, you go and meet other people, whatever it might be, just the things that you're doing in day-to-day life and coming across people and meeting people, starting conversations. You want to find out about them, they find out about you. It might move on to a purposeful conversation from there. So that's reactive, and most people are fine with that. Some people aren't even fine with that, but you know, at the very basic level, most people feel like they can do that. The second level, though, is attendance at functions. And I find this a lot with the trainees. Like, they'll go to this breakfast or this lunch, but they're kind of just attending, right? Like, yes, tick for that. But in terms of actually getting a result and actually getting to know some people, I feel like it has to be something that's on a regular basis. Like, I know a few of them have had success with Rotary or whatever it might be, but it's that consistent event of going along and making yourself known and developing solid relationships as opposed to just attending. It was interesting, one of the girls in corporate actually, she just moved into there, she's 24, and she said to me, oh Laura, you know, I'm expected to go to these events and apparently I'm not talking to people enough, like I need to get better at doing that, but that makes me really nervous. She said, how do you do it? Like what do you do when you're at a networking event? I feel it really awkward when I'm, you know, oh hi, I'm so-and-so and what do you talk about? And something that actually my dad taught me years ago, which I just always remember now, is form. And it's just something that you go through when you're meeting somebody new for the first time, just some questions that you can ask them. And the first one, like F, stands for family. So you can ask them about their family, or if they have kids, or how long they've been in Brisbane, like what their lifestyle is like and around their family. You can ask them more about their occupation and their job, particularly if you're at a networking event and it's something to do with work. You can very much talk about their role and what does that involve and how long have they been at that company for. R is recreation, but I like to call it the holiday ones. So I was like, do you have any holidays planned? Like, oh, love that question. People go into a tangent, they talk about a holiday that they've been planning for months or something that they're really excited and passionate about, which also takes it away from the work conversation too. I find sometimes at events you can get too wrapped up in what the person just does for work and it doesn't really become any more of a personal conversation. So I find that that's a really good one as well. And then M is message. And I could find that that's about anything. Sometimes people will be talking to me and I'm like, oh, wow, you know, actually, yeah, you mentioned, you know, you're thinking about solar, you're talking about electricity prices or whatnot. It's so easy for me to then talk about somebody in the room that I know who's great with solar or whatever it might be. If it's, you know, they're looking for a great hairdresser or, you know, you can find a message and something then to direct them towards either a contact or a referral, or you can just make it work from that perspective in terms of what they're looking for. So just find that you have more meaningful, purposeful conversations, and it's just that fallback. If you're going into a networking event and you're nervous, I just find, oh, hang on, form. Yep, okay, ask about family, occupation, recreation, message, and flow it on from there, which is cool. And so with attendance, again, yeah, if you go sporadically, like that's cool, you might meet somebody there, but it's really quite hard to keep anything sort of going unless it's a regular attendance. And that's what I found from coming along into this room and this environment was I sort of met people on Mondays, I'd see them the next week and be like, oh, hey, yeah, how you going? How'd you go with that thing that we talked about last week? You can kind of keep those conversations going and develop relationships easier. So the next one is moving from being, you know, networking at different events to being a network builder. And I guess that's a total change compared to really what anybody else is doing, I'm finding anyway, out there in the marketplace in terms of how they're actually going about building their network. So some people might connect with people on LinkedIn, which is fantastic, and I guess you're adding to your network. But how valuable is that relationship on LinkedIn if you don't know that person, if you haven't actually met them face to face? So you might go, great, you know, I'm building my network, I'm expanding, I want to make it a bit more valuable, so I'm going to meet this person. Now, if you meet that person for a one-on-one coffee, for example, which I've done so many times, or I've met somebody at a networking event and then we go out for a coffee afterwards, and you might have that more purposeful conversation, but if there's nothing that you can immediately help them with and vice versa, have you noticed it kind of just fades off into the distance? You have the coffee, well, that was a great hour, and then not much more comes from that. Whereas I've found if I can be meeting contacts and having those meaningful, purposeful conversations around an event or a platform like this that I'm going to anyway, at least I can help to introduce them to some other people in the room that might be able to help them with their widget or their business or whatever it might be. And at least in that way, it helps to keep it fresh as well. If people are consistently bringing people into the room, meeting with people, it's fresh faces. It's not like those networking events where it's the same people at every single one, which is great. You get to know those people really well, and then what from there. Whereas here you can do that with the core collaborators, but you can also be meeting the fresh people that are consistently coming in and preventing it from becoming stale, right? And then I guess at the very core of networking is advocacy and having a culture around that as well. And, I feel like at work we've got a great culture. Everyone's, reasonably positive. We all treat each other well. I feel like we do have a really good culture, and that's what I feel like is in this room and this environment as well, which to be honest makes all the difference. And I think it's the attitude of how can I give rather than how can I receive. At so many networking events, you get the pitch sort of thrown at you and they walk away, they give you their business card and you think, oh my God, I don't even know you. Like, why would I ever refer business to you just based on that one elevator pitch? Like, no, thank you. Whereas with advocacy, it's more about sitting down with that person if you are going to have a one-on-one, finding out more about them, their business, what they're looking for, ideal contacts, and then you can get to know that person to feel like you can advocate for them. Like with Solar and with Brendan, I feel extremely comfortable advocating for Brendan, and if I can go out of my way to think, wow, how can I help Brendan? And if everybody has that attitude of how can I help this person, that's where so much more business flows throughout the room. It's incredible. We have tonight and Mondays, which is great, but then we can also break off into smaller groups. And within those smaller groups, that's what we do. It's about 5 to 6. We go around, we hear from everybody, we hear about what they do, what they're looking for, what they're passionate about. It has been amazing sitting in those groups and hearing somebody talk about, electricity and what they're doing, or with batteries and renewable energy, and then somebody going, oh wow, actually, yeah, my neighbours, this person, this is what they do, this is how I think they could help. Oh, fantastic, do you mind if I can contact them? It's been amazing to see the business that's passed between the group, and it's about getting good at advocacy and changing your mindset on that and having that giving attitude before you get anything back. That creates trust within your network, and that's when you have more business come to you than what you would imagine. I've only built my business and my clients through this room. Literally every client I have, bar 2, have come through this environment in one way, shape or form or another, and I don't feel like I need to go out there and promote myself. I don't need to talk about how, we're investment advisors, what we can do for people, our service. I don't need to pitch or anything like that. People just get to know, like and trust you. You build your network that way, and so much business goes through your network because of the culture that you've set up and the way that you've set it up. So look, I'm not really sure, what you've come out for tonight. I mean, you might have been invited here by somebody on LinkedIn, or you might have been invited by a colleague or a friend, but you've come along for a reason. And I often find people come into this room because they're business owners, and they want to grow and expand, or they're looking for an ideal referral partner, or people come in here because they're thinking that they want to move jobs or get ahead, or maybe move into a different industry, or because they're looking for an idea and they want to get started in a business, have a gig, or move to a completely different industry. And that's what I've found by being in this room and coming along and going, I'm just going to build my network, connect with people, help other people and advocate where I can. And through that, I've definitely found the place that I want to be and been able to build a business that way as well. So, thanks.
Great.